She hasn't run toward anyone like that since her father passed. Perhaps, Your Majesty, that's exactly the point worth understanding. Holt Bramwell had spent 4 months as part of the Coalition's infrastructure repair team, assigned to the Valkyrie Royal Palace. His job was purely technical, restoring energy systems damaged after recent territorial conflicts had left much of the capital's power grid in ruins. Nothing about his role involved the royal household. That had seemed simple enough, especially given how unfamiliar he was with Valkyrie diplomatic protocol and palace hierarchy. What his job description hadn't accounted for was Princess Loressa, Queen Iselda's 7-year-old daughter, developing an instant, stubborn fascination with the human engineer working near the palace's eastern wing. "What are you fixing?" she'd asked him directly during his first week, appearing beside his workstation with the fearless curiosity royal children seemed to carry no matter their species or culture. "Power conduits," Holt had explained, caught off guard by the directness of royal interaction, something his briefing materials had never mentioned. "Making sure the lights stay on." "That seems important," Loressa said, settling onto a nearby crate, entirely unconcerned with royal decorum. Their meetings kept happening, whenever his repair schedule brought him near, wherever she was, and slowly turned into something far warmer than the usual distance between staff and royalty. Holt explained things simply enough for a child to follow. Loressa asked questions sharp enough to suggest real engineering curiosity, not just a child's passing interest. Palace staff noticed. At first, quiet concern. Then, slowly, cautious approval, because something in Loressa's behavior during these moments was changing. Something the palace counselors had struggled to reach since her father's death 18 months earlier. She laughed freely, easily, without the careful restraint royal children usually learn about showing emotion in public. Queen Iselda, informed through the usual palace reporting channels, approached it all with the measured caution any parent in her position might use. "Tell me about the human engineer," she asked her senior advisor, Theodric Vosberg, 3 months into Holt's assignment. "Technically competent. Professionally appropriate in every recorded interaction," Theodric reported. "The princess has grown quite attached, Your Majesty, though I should note, his conduct has remained entirely respectful of boundaries throughout. And her behavior during these interactions noticeably improved," he said carefully. "Genuine laughter. Spontaneous curiosity. Things the counselors have struggled to bring out since His Majesty's passing." Iselda took this in with the kind of quiet consideration reserved for decisions that needed care, not haste. "Continue monitoring," she said. The afternoon that changed how the court saw things happened during a formal diplomatic reception. Holt arrived briefly to hand over paperwork for completed repairs, his presence in the palace's grand entrance hall unexpected by everyone except Loressa, who had apparently kept close track of his schedule without anyone noticing. She broke from her position beside her mother's throne the second she spotted him, crossing the marble floor with a complete disregard for royal decorum that sent a visible ripple of shock through the assembled officials. "Holt," she called, arms already reaching out, her delight cutting sharply against the formality around her. Holt, sensing the weight of the moment, despite his limited grasp of Valkyrie customs, knelt immediately as she reached him, accepting her hug while still holding a careful, professional distance that court observers would later describe as remarkably well judged given the circumstances. "Princess," he said warmly, "you're supposed to be at the reception." "I saw you from the stairs," she said, completely unbothered by the protocol she'd just broken, while palace guards traded uneasy glances across the hall. Queen Iselda watched from her throne, her expression something court historians would spend a long time trying to describe. But she wasn't studying the breach of protocol. She was studying her daughter's face, open, unguarded joy, the kind that hadn't shown up so naturally in a long, long time. "Lessa," she said, her voice more gentle correction than reprimand. "Perhaps you'll return to your position and let our guest finish his business properly." "Yes, Mother," Loressa said, though her smile made it clear the correction hadn't landed very hard. Holt, recognizing his chance to address the Queen directly, rose and gave the formal bow required of him, though what came next broke from diplomatic script entirely. "Your Majesty," he said, "I apologize if my presence caused any disruption. The princess's enthusiasm sometimes outpaces my ability to manage protocol." Iselda studied him for a long moment, seeing in that plain, honest apology something far more meaningful than simple courtesy. "Engineer Bramwell," she said, "I find myself reconsidering certain assumptions about how palace interactions should work. My daughter hasn't shown this kind of unguarded happiness in a long time. I wonder whether strict protocol serves her well-being as much as whatever genuine connection your presence seems to provide. Theodoric, standing nearby, offered a careful suggestion. Perhaps, Your Majesty, a formal arrangement could address both the protocol concerns and the benefit the princess is clearly getting. Explain. An official designation, Theodoric said. Technical tutor and palace engineering consultant to the princess. Formal status would settle the protocol questions while allowing the relationship to continue. Iselda considered this, then turned to Holt directly. Engineer Bramwell, would you accept a formal palace appointment covering both technical infrastructure work and appropriate educational time with my daughter? Holt, genuinely caught off guard, took a moment before answering with his usual straightforwardness. I'd consider that an honor, Your Majesty. Though I should mention, my qualifications don't exactly include royal tutoring credentials. Your qualifications, Iselda said, seem to include something far more valuable than a tutoring credential. My daughter's genuine happiness suggests that matters far more than paperwork. Loressa, who had supposedly returned to her position but was clearly still listening, couldn't hold back any longer. Does that mean Holt stays? It means, Iselda said, allowing herself a rare, genuine smile that visibly surprised her court, Engineer Bramwell becomes a permanent part of our household, assuming he accepts. I accept, Holt said at once, watching Loressa's face light up with a joy several officials would later call the most genuine they'd seen from a young princess in a very long time. The formal appointment went through within the week. Holt's role grew from simple repair work into something far more meaningful, a steady, trusted presence offering exactly the kind of warmth that palace protocol, however well meant, had struggled to provide since her father's death. Queen Iselda, watching her daughter's happiness grow over the following months, found herself grateful for the strange turn of events that had brought an unassuming human engineer into their household, a reminder that sometimes the most valuable additions to a royal court don't arrive through diplomacy or grand titles, but through the most ordinary, unglamorous assignments. She watched her daughter disappear down the corridor beside an ordinary engineer carrying a toolbox instead of a royal title. Strange, she thought. Kingdoms are usually changed by generals, diplomats, or kings. Sometimes they're changed by the person who simply makes a child smile again.